In progress.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Military Monday. I'm Vanessa Donaldson, your host. I'm helping you with your life beyond the military. And today I have the honor of having Tammy Lynn Laird with us in the studio. If you followed a little of our notes, Tammy is an author, which we'll dive more into, which I love what she's doing with children's books. She's also a U.S. Army and a U.S. Air Force veteran. So wow, how she got two of those done in one life cycle. Amazing. She's going to share her story a little about military transition, changes to the other side. Being a wingman is a big thing that comes up a lot. And she said, you know what, let me explain more what this word wingman means and how that evolves from having a wingman in your military active duty life and beyond that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm with your life beyond the military. I want to know about this wingman. So we're going to learn and just have a chat for the next half hour. So buckle up, settle down in your seats, get comfortable, and welcome, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining me today. Early morning, where are you coming in from?
I'm just an hour behind. So
okay.
It's not too terribly early.
Not too early. Not like when I was in Baja, Mexico on the beaches. That was like 3-4 hours. I couldn't keep up, but welcome. So yeah, tell us a little about I know you've got some background in like homeschooling as well and author, but I want to hear about the books first because you barely touched a nugget on that. So I want to hear about your author life before we go into the wingman.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Vanessa. I just want to tell you what you do is very important, and just letting people know that they're not alone going through that transition. They're not alone on active duty or after. So thank you for what you do. And I know that you're touching a lot of lives. All right, books. Okay, so I have two books. The first one, this is Introducing Beatrice. This is about transitioning within the family, and there's a lot of just because my boys are 5 years apart and 4.5 years apart, and our boys just kind of different phases, and a lot of parallels to what I was going through as I was transitioning from active duty into the inactive ready reserves, and then completely separated from a military base, just out in the civilian world. And then the second book is this one, Valiant Charlie Defeats the Sleep Monster. You can see some military references in there. So funny story about this one is I was trying to include everyone, and this story is about obstructive sleep apnea in children. And there's a part in there where the ENT, ear, nose, and throat surgeon, I called him the ENT fighter pilot, the fighter pilot of ENT, because he was the one that surgically went in and removed all the sleep obstructions, the physical ones. And then there's a part in there where he's reporting his wingman was the surgical team. So it was like he was ENT1, and then his crew, the nurses, the anesthesiologists, all of them, they were his wingman, collective group. And so the part where he goes, okay, everything's done. We're going to go back and debrief the parents. And I started cracking up because it made me think of boxer briefs. And I was thinking, he's going to go back and debrief the parents. And I went, oh, I need to change that wording to inform the parents, or to give them an after action report, but not debrief them. So I had to
change. Great. I'm going to think of a whole new word now every time I debrief, and I'm thinking of briefs. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, because not everyone, that's one of the transitioning things I noticed, that when you transition, I'll just be talking sometimes and they're just looking at me like, what'd you just say? Can I buy a vowel? Because, I'm going to go to the PX, or I'm going to go to the BX. It's a couple clicks down the road. And, and they're just like,
you're speaking in code.
Right. So that's why I changed it to inform instead of debrief. Although I still say debrief sometimes, and my boys start snickering. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's so true. The military vocabulary is so different. It's a culture of its own, and military spouses as well. We speak in code, and then you realize, oh gosh, we're in civilian world now. We're not living on a base. people they just get that glazed look over, right? Like, what are they talking about? And once in a while, somebody might ask the acronym, be like, what do you mean the NEX? And what is that? And like,
Some
oh my gosh.
acronyms have vowels now. I mean, they've always been there. It's just I've noticed that there's vowels in there, and then they'll say it, and I'll be like, I can't be funny. I can't say, can I put a vowel in there? I can't do that now. I just have to go, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah. So now I'm going to change my wording and say, instead of debriefing us on the word wingman, let's inform our audience, because some are military on here, some are not. We've got Diana who joined us. Oh, I know it's earlier for her. Thank you for coming, Diana. I think she's on the West Coast somewhere. And then Pamela Potts is on. So thank you, ladies. Put some comments in the chats as we go. Thank you for supporting us today and for coming to hear a little more and diving deeper with Tammy. So the word wingman, it was floating around a few weeks before I got on the call with you. And I had some calls with some other military circles through Angels 14, which you're a part of too, that awesome supportive military group that Jeffrey Knights runs. So somebody had mentioned, yeah, he's my wingman. And then somebody else mentioned, yeah, she's my wingman. And I'm like, it's a she, it's a he, it's an it, what's a wingman? And then you mentioned talking, and I'm like, okay, now it's just all synchronicity. I've heard wingman like 8 times within a few, weeks. And then you mentioned, I can talk about this more and what that meant in your life and what it means, what it represents. So I'm like, oh, it's perfect timing. So yeah, let's dive into that word wingman. Where does it come from first? I haven't done any research on it. It sounds like something to do with the Air Force, but it can apply maybe to all branches. So
it's all branches for sure. It's just when you think of wingman, it's, I guess the one that comes to mind is think about the movie Top Gun and how I probably messed this up, but I'll try. And he goes, it's Maverick. And he's like, I'm not leaving my wingman. And he's like, he won't leave ice, And so that was like when I was a kid and I was watching that and, back before they, changed the ratings of movies. And I'm like, I didn't know there were swear words in there. I didn't know there was this part in there. I don't remember all that. But anyway, it was just, that was the first time I'd ever seen that. And I just thought, wow, he won't leave his friend. He's putting his life in danger to save his friend. And I'm like, I can totally stand behind that. That's awesome. And then later, my first assignment as a squadron section commander, I had a fellow squadron section commander, and he and I we had the 2 largest squadrons on the base. And I would shake my head. I'm like, why is the second lieutenant that's completely clueless be in charge of the squadron that has so many people? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. And he's a captain. And I remember him just teaching me things and just taking me by the hand. And whenever I would have a bad day, he would go, let's go get some ice cream. I'm like, well, ice cream makes you fat. I don't want to eat ice cream, And he's like, you haven't eaten anything in weeks. I'm watching you just dwindle down because you're so stressed. Because I just, when I get stressed, I just don't eat. I just forget. And then anyway, he would just say, come on, you need the calories. And so I'd go, okay. And so we'd go to the base, Baskin Robbins, and he would just say, what's going on? And I would just tell him what's up. And then he would just kind of give me feedback. And the thing that stands out the most is he would just tell me, this is how you get your inbox taken care of. And I go, okay. And, email, all that. He goes, just reply back to everybody. Now, ball's in their court. So you got a couple hours before you can, you have to do anything. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's brilliant. And, so you're taking care of whatever the thing is. And you're also giving yourself some time to regroup. And okay. So that was the first instance of wingman. And he was just he was just awesome. He very kind. Whenever I would do something stupid, he wouldn't criticize. He would just kind of pull me aside and just say, I wouldn't do that again. And that was enough for me. And I'd be like, okay, thank you for being honest with me. Thank you for communicating with me. I had no idea, I was absent the day they taught mind reading. So it's so useful, because I spent a lot of time second guessing things, and I try to do it the biblical way, where if you have an issue with someone, just go to that person, just talk to them. And that doesn't always happen because sometimes, they might be deployed or they can't talk to you because it's a subject matter that you don't have jurisdiction over, or you just can't talk about it, you know? So I really appreciated that. Wingman also, think about junior high and think about that one dance that you had to go to. And you're like, oh gosh, I want to do this. And
don't remind me. Oh, I didn't even go to
I
those
know,
dances.
but if you have just one person, just one person, one wingman, wingwoman to go with you, then it's not that daunting because you're not alone, and you could be stupid together. You know, that's what I'm talking about. It's just having someone that has your back, someone that's watching out for you, and that is for every military person, including the dependent, because I was the dependent as a kid, the spouse. You know, I watched when my mom had her spouse friends, and then I watched my dad. He was active Air Force, you know, till retirement, and he had his racquetball buddies and, you know, those kind of things. And it's like, that's who you go to, you know, to share. And sometimes not share at all. Sometimes you don't want to talk about it, or you can't talk about it, and you're just sitting there having an ice cream, and just that's enough for me. You know, you don't have to talk to me. Just you can listen, or if I don't have anything to say, I'll listen to you. How about that? You know, and it's supposed to be reciprocal. A good wingman is reciprocal. They don't just take and not give. And they don't just give and not take back. You know, you're supposed to be, I guess, on equal footing. And
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful analogies and descriptions, and the way you say, like, having that communication, like, even if it is just silence, it's being present and communicating when you do have thoughts of communicating, you can get it out, but just even being in the space together. And I think someone has referred to me too as, you know, wingman for wingwoman for military spouses and stuff. I didn't know what the heck they're talking about, because I don't know, my husband's Marine Corps, so I did not grow up with the wingman terminology. Maybe it's more, you know, common, or like you said, in the Air Force, wings, Top Gun, flying. So yeah, I just look back at the people that have mentored me along the way too, and come alongside me. And isn't it great, like, this leadership that you had in the military, that, like you said, he didn't reprimand you, he didn't judge you, he didn't make you feel, you know, belittled. He just came alongside you, met you where you were at, you know, held your hand metaphorically, and got you to where you needed to be going, and made sure that you were moving forward with your mission, your job, whatever, and so that you could live your best life in the military and do your job effectively and all that. So the fact that you had like a commander like that too, because I have coached military spouses that were also veterans that didn't have that story. They had like a complete opposite story of, you know, being abused in the military and that whole thing.
I have some of those too, but I don't want to talk about those.
So that happens too, but it's nice. It's nice that you've highlighted like a positive, you know, leadership quality of someone that they are in leadership, and they can affect and determine the futures of, you know, their subordinates or whatever. So it's just nice to see that there are men out there, people out there that are having the best interest for their people that are under them. And that, you know, this guy just met you in public place, like he did everything right, met you in a public place, ice cream, very platonic. And look how that helped grow you. You're still talking about that memory and all that instilled in you from back then. So all you wingmen out there that are on the fence, all those military guys that are still active duty, if you've got that, I guess they kind of have that power, but that authority, you know, I mean, God is our ultimate authority. You and I were both Christians, but if they have that kind of authority and leadership, you know, use it wisely. I was actually just on a call this morning, a prayer call, and we talked about false idols, or, you know, people like abusing the system in the way it's not meant to be. So yeah, don't abuse the system, use it widely. We want to help and support our military families so they can do their jobs, so the spouses can support their husbands, so that the kids can thrive in that, you know, unit family, and be able to go to school and have that support and all that, and not worry, and grow up generationally with a whole positive effect and solution about being in the military. Not we don't want to spiral into the negative side. So thank you so much for sharing about that. So communication, having someone to recognize you, seeing you when you're calling you out, kind of, you know, honesty too, like calling you out maybe when things were off track. I mean,
We'll never do that again.
You'll never do that again.
Just laugh at me and say, what just happened? And then, you know, down the road, something happened on his end, And it just felt so good as the wingman to be able to come alongside him and say, hey, this too will pass. It's going to be okay. And then I go, close your door. Or I said, okay, let the people know that we're going to be in this room and we're going to pray. And then we started praying for the situation, and it was pretty cool. And yeah, it's good. And you don't have to have just, it's good to have one wingman in every situation.
I was just going to ask.
But it's not, but you have multiple wingmen. And sometimes you'll have two wingmen or wingwomen on a project. And it just, whatever the circumstances are, it's good to have just someone come alongside you, and you go along someone else. And I also, it's not just for leadership. I also look at it as just watching out for each other. And like if I remember college years, and my husband thought I was weird at this point, but you have to understand the situation was a very desperate situation. When I look back now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what could have happened? But I had a friend who had too much to drink, and I had to take his keys away, and he was wearing shorts. So I was like going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? He's in the car. He put the keys in the daggum ignition. And I was like, I can't let him go. I can't let him go. I can't do this. And so I'm like, he's wearing shorts. And then I made sure somebody saw, I didn't just do this willy-nilly, but I started pulling his leg hairs, and I pulled hard, and I kept going up, and then I started going, oh dear, we're getting close. And I said, you better give me those keys. If you don't give me those keys, I will pull. Don't challenge me. And his eyes got kind of scared, even though he was very drunk. He just went, okay, here. And he gave me the keys. And then my husband just over there shaking his head like, oh my gosh, what manner of woman am I considering marrying? We were dating at the time.
You were dating at the time, yeah.
But it was going pretty serious at that time. And he's just looking at me, and I'm like, I look at him and I go, I couldn't let him drive. This is my parents' house. If something were to happen, it would be my fault. I don't deal with regret very well. So I need to preempt this as soon as possible. So that's also being a wingman or wingwoman in this situation, that if you see them doing something that will cause harm, you've got to stop them. And if I was ever put in that situation again, I hope I never am, I probably would do the same thing. Maybe not pull leg hairs, but, do something else, like just reach in there, grab the keys and go, that's it, or pull the emergency brake or something, just anything to delay them, or go get some more wingmen and say, I need intervention, please. Can you block the car? But, whatever we needed to do.
No, very, very valuable and useful information today that can get, recycled to our youth, to our kids that are still going through junior high and high, because it's a regular thing that could happen. So, and the fact that your husband or your boyfriend at the time saw, I just want to interject too, that whatever the wingmen are doing with each other, other people are watching too, and it can leave a positive or negative effect on that person as well. So your husband was kind of in the situation too, and God forbid what would have happened if both of you would have let him go, then he would have been part of that whole ordeal. And instead he got to watch his girlfriend take charge. You weren't even in the military yet. It's like they were already training you. And
well, I was Army at the time. I was Army Reserve.
Oh, you were Army.
My husband, at the time, he had just come off active duty, and he was at my reserve unit. And that's where we actually met, was that reserve unit. Oh. And it's kind of it's a sweet story actually. But so we were just dating, huh?
I said, tell us if you want.
Oh, yeah. I was praying for a best friend, and I just said, God, I was wrong. I really do want to get married one day. I'm sorry. I know I told you, I'm just going to marry the Air Force. I'm done. I don't ever want to date again. I know I said that. And then I said, okay, I'm sorry. Could you send me a best friend, preferably a guy, just because? And I just, as a kid, I always got along better with the boys than the girls, just because the girls were just different from, I grew up with a brother, and boys were just easier. There was it was just easier to get along with, and they were fun. I did have a lot of, girl friends, growing up and stuff, and we would play stuff. But as we got older, I noticed that it was just, I got along better with the guys. Somebody makes you mad, you just punch them, and then next thing you know, you're friends again. Whereas girls, if you were to do something like that, they're like, I never want to play with you again.
A little more drama.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. So anyway, I get a call from a friend in the unit, my reserve unit. I had already contracted at this point. I was in ROTC. I'd already signed over, and he just said, hey, we're drilling. So if you want to come visit us, you're welcome. And I was like, oh, not that guy. That guy's not a believer. I don't know if I could. And then I'm like, well, God, okay, I trust you. And I went, okay. And so I showed up, and then that guy saw me, and he's like, hey, so good to see you. Okay, bye now. And he split. And I was like, whew, okay, not him. It's fine. And then I saw my husband, and it was this love at first sight moment. We're just looking at each other, and you know how you start questioning. You're like, why is he looking at me? So I'm trying to look behind me to see if maybe he saw like something else. I don't know. But then I'm like, wow. And then, we had a not so helpful wingman, and he goes, don't you think someone like him would already have a girlfriend? And I'm like, yes. So I put it out of my mind, and I thought, okay, and I go, well, we'll just hang out together anyway. It doesn't matter. We'll just go as a group kind of thing. And then next thing I know, we let the other guy go. And then I found out that, he wasn't dating anyone. I wasn't dating anyone. And we went for a 3-hour cup of coffee. It was he was supposed to drive like 3 hours, because he was about 3 hours from the unit. And I was about maybe an hour or 45 minutes. Anything over 20 minutes is like really long for me, because I get car sick, and then I have to go to the restroom. And it's like, you want to go on a road trip? Not really.
You do the van life with a toilet in the van, but that's another story.
Well, it's the car sickness. It's just, this is why I turned my navigator slot down, because I didn't want to put people's lives in danger, because I was just so sick all the time. I'm like, yeah, I can see it now. We're in the middle of something. And I'm like, hold on a sec, blah, blah, I'm throwing up. So I was just like, no. Well, there's other reasons for that. But anyway, long story short, after that 3-hour cup of coffee, we became pen pals, and we had this long distance thing going. And he would come up for the reserve unit, and over time I was like, okay, we got a spare bedroom. I live with my brother, so you're welcome to stay here instead of going to the hotel, and during those drill weekends. And then anyway, so that's pretty much what happened. And then after 4 months, he proposed, and it's so many little things in there, but yeah, we knew each other a very short time, and we just knew. It's like, when you just know.
Yeah. So your husband is like our spouses are our ultimate wingmen, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
I never looked at it that way, but it's a big word it's a big responsibility to uphold to that word, right? Like you said, the other wingman that wasn't really being a good wingman at the time, and not really encouraging or whatever. So we had a couple comments in the chat too. I'll just add here. Larry is joining us. Larry Stowdy said he just finished watching all the seasons of SEAL Team, so he's totally up to date with the military lingo.
Okay, awesome.
And then we have a Raymond Hicks who chimed in here. Thank you, Raymond here. He said, in my opinion, a wingman provides protection, and a person who helps, protects, guides a friend, associate, or in other words, watches his back. Wingman, and then Larry added, wingman provides accountability. So all those things that, you have been mentioning in our conversation. So yeah, the spouse definitely are our wingmen. And then I thought you just have like one and that's it. But now I see it's a bigger picture than that. And it can be in different seasons of life, different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And just this past weekend, actually, I was going to a veterans retreat to just share 22-0. And my husband's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Would you like to come with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is, I see the roads. Can I drive?" Because you know what I'm talking about. When I get car sick, it's not funny. I mean, I have like full blown, like maybe I should really try that Dramamine so I could leave my drama somewhere else, No.
Dramamine, but then it makes you drowsy maybe. So you prefer to drive or you don't prefer
it's also air sickness too. So, I mean, Sam was the ultimate wingman. When we got our first assignment, it was to go to England, right? And so I'm just like, okay, I'm okay on the humongous planes. I'm good. But if I get on one of those, those little prop plane, I go, and then we missed our our connecting flight. We missed it, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And Sam's like, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "It's that plane." And he goes, "It's going to be fine." I'm like, "Mm-mm." And I'm looking at my nails and I'm like, "No, I won't hurt him." Like, I'll probably hold his hand, And then I go, "My nails are short. It's cool." And I go, "I need you to go to the store, like in the airport, and go get me some NyQuil. Would you please?" And because I was like going to medicate because I was just terrified, back then.
Oh my gosh.
But it didn't work because then I was dopey and frightened at the same time. And I tried to pass out, but it didn't work. And it was just like this. So when we got to England, I was like, I'm really tired.
Oh my God. So our message here is don't go out and think a bottle of NyQuil is going to cure it. It's not going to cure it, which actually transitions probably to 22-0 and the kinds of things and techniques that you can learn to cure instead of doing any kind of self-medication when we're stressed and triggered, right? There's other tools.
It's healed. It's healed.
Healing.
22-0 can heal post-traumatic stress, anxiety, negative emotions. So I love what we do. So that veterans retreat that Sam and I went to, that was amazing. Just, you could see wingmen in action. And some of those guys, they, all of them, some of them went to not basic training, but they were roommates at one of their duty stations, and they're like getting together. And I was like, oh, it reminded me of all the times that we would, as military people, where you were stationed together. And that's probably the biggest thing, that the transition that people don't talk about. You go to a transition assistance program, 3-day class, and they take care of, make sure you get your medical stuff squared away, make sure you have all your administrative things done. But the one thing they don't talk about, at least when I went through, is they don't tell you when you leave, you're going to feel like you just lost it feels like an amputation. It's like of your heart. And you, all of a sudden, even the people that used to annoy you in your unit, you're just like, oh, here they come. Hello, Mr. Annoying, or hello, Miss Annoying, whatever. And sometimes you're the annoying one. I don't know. But even those people you miss them. And it's like my transition, when I got away from that active duty place, everything you just miss. You miss going the slow speed when you're on base, and you miss just the basic structure. And my poor Sam, he has put up with so much over the years. Just, it's funny things, but like, hey, we're going to business dinner. Can you go get dressed now? And I'd just be standing there in the closet, just bawling. And he's like, "What's the matter?" And I go, "I don't know what to wear. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to wear." It was so simple before. Uniform of the day.
Yeah. So true.
BDUs, Blues. Real simple. Uniform of the day. And so now I'm like going, what does smart casual mean? What does business casual mean? What does this mean? And sometimes, with the civilians that would come to these functions, I would pay attention. I'd be like, okay, that's what smart casual looks like. British, they'd call it smart casual. And then business casual, I'm like, okay, no tie, just a jacket, slacks, no sneakers, dress shoes, things like that. So that would be, and then nightmares. Poor Sam. My nightmares after I left active duty, they lasted about 7 years. I mean, they weren't like, it wasn't every single night. It would just be periodically. Something would remind me of something, and then I would, and he would have to wake me up and say, hey, they're fine. They're safe. You're good. Everything's cool. Do you know where we are? You know, things like that. So.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting so lost in your story. I can't believe we're already at 30 minutes. I thought we just got started. But I will just close with this too. I'm so glad Aaron jumped on. I have to connect you with Aaron on LinkedIn if you're not connected, but he runs pre-veteran. So he's catching people active duty about 3 years before they actually retire. To start working on that VA disability claim audit in advance, making sure they're documenting everything, all the way to, career resume type situations and translating. You can't translate the words. I got to share the LinkedIn with you that I did with him. If you haven't watched it last week, I think he was just on last week. So I'll share the link, but he put in there that his comment is there's no emotional roadmap when we get out. Right. And
yes,
I think he also mentioned when you're in the mission and still active duty, your higher ups in the chain are not really planning your retirement. They've got a mission. Everybody in the active duty is on the active mission duty driven part. So nobody's planning and holding your hand to the retirement side other than that 3-day fire hose tap. And they try their best. It's a start, but we have a lot more work to do. And Aaron is one of these guys doing those work. So he mentions there's no emotional roadmap. Boot camp equals individual to group. When we do reverse the process and give you the autonomy to be your individual again. So yeah, their website, one of their taglines is something about claiming your own autonomy and being your own individual, because we're just on this group mentality where we go. Even the spouses, we move around as groups. I mean, I have a group coaching program, group coaching with empowerment and mentorship, because like you said, we do miss that camaraderie. We do miss that togetherness, and we work well as a team. We like to bounce ideas off each other. So kind of like the Wingman thing, resources, and hey, I was thinking this, am I crazy? So that's what we're doing. And you're stepping into that too with 22-0. So Pam says, thank you so much. Great job. So yeah, we've got the comments in there. You'll see it all live after. It'll be a replay. And what did I want to add too? You're also, still a homeschool teacher, which is a whole other story, but that helps probably why you're doing books and authors. You're really into the heart of children and raising the youth. So you are the wingman to an entire education field, an entire education system too. That's the way I see you too. You are encouraging, empowering, motivating all those youth, all those young people. That it's a really tough time, especially if you're in the military too, moving every 2 to 4 years. That you've been the dependent and having to find some kind of stability. So you can be kind of like that anchor for them too. And I just commend you for all the work that you're doing for our military community, for our youth, for 22-0. You can reach her right there, Tammy Laird at 220.org. If you want to learn more information about how she can help you with that on the transition side, with all kinds of neat things they're doing over there. So check out their website. They've got a video on there. And yeah, connect with Tammy if you have some more questions for her. For myself, I'm Vanessa Donaldson. You can find me at resetwithvanessa.com. And I'm also doing VA disability rating audits. So those are complimentary for all those people that are still struggling out there, that just ran out again and didn't take care of that documentation and are stuck in the claim process. We're there to help. We show up where we can and help as wingmen to others, right? So some people are going to be wingman to us in our lives for eternity until we have our last breath, and we can be those wingmen and wing women. I don't want people to get too politically correct. I'm like, is it a wingman, wing woman? But it's wingmen, you know what we mean. We love you all. So any last words you want to leave with people? Because I can't believe it's been 30 minutes. You're like, I don't know if we're going to have enough to talk about. Really, Tammy, you and I.
I know. No, just thank you. Thank you for talking about 22-0. If anyone, the biggest thing I want to tell you is it's confidential. No content is shared, and it's 100% free for veterans, first responders, their immediate families. That means spouses and minor children in the home, and our Gold Star families. If you're a civilian and you need the same sort of assistance, anxietyguys.com. And so give us a shout. You don't have to go through anything like this, the transition, anxiety, depression, any of that. We're just a message away, literally.
And you
So
can either meet in person or just through Zoom too. You can do a lot of
we
healing
meet virtually
online.
usually.
Okay.
I did, when I did the veterans retreat, that was in person, and I had a bug fly in my eye. That was, I'm trying so hard, here, and I'm like, hang on a
A
sec.
bug in your eye? That's like my daily operations in the van life. Like, really?
Nature. Me and
I'm talking
nature.
to people, smacking mosquitoes. So, yeah. So, oh, yeah, my flower, you can barely see it there. But helping military spouses bloom wherever they're planted. That's what we want to do, and helping our veterans. So, thank you all so much. Raven says, Miss Vanessa and Miss Sarah were chosen by God to be our wingmen. Oh, Tammy, thank you so much. We're chosen by God. I love that. We are chosen by God. I love that. Thank you. That's a great ending. And so we will see you back for another Military Monday sometime. And thank you, Tammy, again, for carving out time with us. And Godspeed. God bless. Go be a wingman. If you're on the fence and you're a wingman and you don't even know it, pay attention to being a wingman. Really take that word to heart, and especially for our military community. Utilize that tool. Someone else mentioned there's a TikTok going around. It's not about asking for help, but utilizing the resources we have. So utilize the gifts, from God. I'd say utilize your spiritual gifts and utilize the tools you've been given. Don't hold back. So be a light and love to others, like Tammy is doing here. So thank you so much, Tammy. And I love your shirt. It's just full of color, full of life. That's what we want to bring to the world. So thank you. Bye, everybody.